Think you know the whole story? Turns out you were probably taught the half-truth. Welcome to Half-Truths. Close your eyes. Picture it. You can, can't you? The sun is a white-hot coin in a perfect blue sky. The air is thick with dust, sweat, and something coppery, blood. And the sound, oh, the sound, it's a low, hungry roar from 50,000 throats, an ocean of noise crashing into the sanded floor of the arena, the Colosseum. In the center stand two men. One holds a net and a trident, the other a short sword and a tall shield. Their bronze helmets hide their faces, turning them into symbols. They are slaves, prisoners, men with no hope, brought here for one purpose, to kill or be killed. The crowd leans in. The emperor board gives a lazy signal. The fight begins. We all know this story. We've seen it a dozen times. We saw it in Spartacus. We saw it, most unforgettably, in Gladiator. We saw Russell Crowe, betrayed and enslaved, look up at the roaring mob and the scheming emperor and yell, "Are you not entertained?" This is the image of Rome that is seared into our collective consciousness, a decadent, cruel empire that treated human life as disposable entertainment. The gladiator is the ultimate symbol of this. A man, or sometimes a woman, with a 50% chance of survival at best. The fight ends when one man is down, bleeding in the sand. He looks to the crowd, begging for his life. And that crowd, hungry for the kill, turns their thumbs down. The victor hesitates for a moment, then plunges his sword into the loser's throat. The body is dragged away, the blood is covered with fresh sand, and the next two victims are sent in. It's a powerful story. It's dramatic. It's simple. It's the perfect encapsulation of a barbaric past that we, in our enlightened present, have thankfully evolved beyond. But what if that story isn't the whole story? What if I told you the gladiator you're watching wasn't necessarily a slave? What if I told you he might have been a highly paid volunteer? What if I told you that in the arena there was a referee in a white tunic ready to stop the fight if someone broke the rules? And what if I told you that the thumbs down gesture for death is almost certainly a complete fabrication? This week on Half-Truths, we are stepping onto the hot sands of the arena to unlearn the myth of the Roman gladiator. The fact we all know is that these were disposable slaves, forced to fight to the death every single time. The truth is that while the world of the games was brutal, it was also a complex, high-finance world of professional sports, complete with rules, contracts, celebrity superstars, and retirement plans. The fight to the death wasn't the rule. It was the expensive, shocking, and often unpopular exception. So let's go back to that moment. Let's look past the Hollywood script and figure out what was really happening inside the Colosseum. First, let's honor the myth, because it is a powerful one, and it didn't come from nowhere. The story we all know is compelling because it paints a picture of ultimate high-stakes drama, life and death, freedom and slavery. It's the ultimate reality show. In this version of history, the ludus, the gladiator school, is a dungeon. It's a place where men, captured in distant wars in Gaul or Thracia, are brought in chains. They are starved, beaten, and trained by cruel masters who see them as nothing more than livestock. They have no names, no rights, no future. Their only purpose is to die well, to put on a good show before their inevitable, bloody end. The crowd in this story is a single entity. The mob. They are bloodthirsty and degenerate. They crave death. They are a reflection of the cruelty of the state itself, ruled by an emperor who uses bread and circuses to keep the population distracted from their own misery. The games are a form of political control, a way to release the violent pressures of society by focusing it on these poor, doomed souls. And the climax of this myth, the part we all remember, is the gesture, the pollice averso, the turned thumb. The wounded gladiator, his shield lost, his arm bleeding, raises a trembling finger. He begs for missio, for mercy. The crowd roars. The sponsor of the games, perhaps the emperor himself, looks to the people. They want blood. He turns his thumb down. It's over. This narrative is clean. It's morally simple. We know who to root for, the enslaved gladiator. We know who to hate, the cruel emperor and the savage crowd. It reinforces our own sense of moral progress. We would never do that today. We're civilized. This version of the story is so compelling that it's been the default for centuries. It's what I learned in school. It's probably what you learned too. But like so many things we think we know, the moment you start to pull on one tiny thread, the entire epic tapestry begins to unravel. The first thread to pull, it's not a moral one, it's an economic one. Let's think about the gladiator not as a victim, but as an asset. Who owns this gladiator? A man called a Lanista. He runs the Ludus, the training school. Now, is this school a dungeon? Not really. It's a high-performance training center. The Lanista has to buy this man, perhaps as a slave, or sign him as a free volunteer. Then he has to house him. He has to equip him with armor and weapons. He has to hire the best trainers, the doctoras, to teach him the complex skills of his specific fighting style. Most importantly, he has to feed him. We know from archaeological finds and texts that gladiators were fed a specific, high-carbohydrate, high-protein diet. They were nicknamed the hordearii, the barley men. This was designed to build muscle and also to create a layer of subcutaneous fat, which would protect against superficial cuts, making the fights bloodier and more dramatic, but less likely to be fatal. And then there's the medical care. The gladiator school in Pergamum had a team of expert physicians. Galen, one of the most famous doctors in all of antiquity, the man whose medical theories would dominate Europe for 1,500 years, got his start as a ludus doctor. He was, in modern terms, a team physician for a professional sports franchise. Why would you waste that kind of medical expertise on men you expected to die in their first fight? A fully trained, skilled gladiator was a massive, long-term investment. He was a Formula One car, a prized racehorse, and a heavyweight champion all rolled into one. The Lanista didn't sell his gladiators. He rented them out to an editor, the sponsor of the games, a wealthy politician, or the emperor. Now, here is the single most important fact that shatters the myth. If the gladiator was killed in the arena, the editor who rented him had to pay the Lanista his entire replacement value. This was an astronomical sum, sometimes 50 times the rental fee. Suddenly, the whole picture changes. You're the editor. You've spent a fortune to put on these games to win popular favor. Do you really want the crowd to demand the death of every gladiator? That would bankrupt you. You're the Lanista. Do you really want to rent out your most prized, most expensive athlete on the high probability that he'll be killed, even if you are compensated? You'd be out of business in a month. And you, the gladiator, you know that you are an incredibly valuable property. You're not just going to roll over and die. The entire system was built not on the certainty of death, but on the possibility of it. It was the risk that made it exciting, but the economics demanded survival. So where did we get the fight to the death idea? We've done what historians so often do. We've conflated two completely different things. The Roman games had a schedule, much like a modern festival. The morning events were the Venationes, the wild beast hunts, but the events at midday, the Meridiani, were something else entirely. These were the public executions. This is where the damnati ad mortem, the condemned criminals, were sent out. They were thrown to wild animals or forced to fight each other with no armor and no training. This was a fight to the death. This was a brutal, horrific spectacle of state power. But this was the opening act. This was the execution, not the sport. The main event, the part everyone paid to see in the afternoon, was the munera, the gladiator bouts, and these were contests between professional, highly trained athletes. And what about that thumb, the thumbs down for death? It's a myth. It comes almost entirely from a single, dramatic 19th century French painting. The artist Jean-Léon Gérôme painted a massive canvas called Pollice Verso, turned thumb. It shows the victorious gladiator, foot on his vanquished foe, looking to the crowd as they gesture thumbs down. This painting became so famous, so iconic, that when directors in early Hollywood wanted to film a Roman epic, they just copied the painting. It looked dramatic. It became fact. So what did they do? Roman sources are vague. They mention a turned thumb, but never specify which way. Many classicists now believe the sign for death might have been a thumb up, symbolizing a drawn sword. The sign for mercy, for missio, might have been a closed fist with the thumb tucked inside, symbolizing a sheathed weapon. The simple, binary you pour down we know is pure cinematic invention. So let's go back to the arena one last time and see the fight as it actually was. It's the main event. The crowd is electric. They're not just a formless mob. They are fans. They have favorites. They have betting slips. They're arguing about statistics and form. Out come the two fighters. They aren't just random slaves. They are specific, well-known types. Perhaps it's a Retiarius, with his net and trident, quick and lightly armored against a Secutor, with his heavy shield, helmet, and short sword. This is a classic matchup. A pursuer versus a netman, a contest of agility versus power. It's not a chaotic brawl. It's a highly stylized, tactical duel, like a modern MMA fight between a striker and a grappler. And watching them is Asuma Rudes, the chief referee. He and his assistant carry long staffs, or rudes. We see them in mosaics. They are there to enforce the rules. They stop the fight if a strap on a shield breaks. They call a foul for an illegal blow. They separate the fighters if they get locked in a stalemate, a move that would be familiar to any boxing fan. The fight is intense, it's brutal, and it's real. A bad move can mean a serious, disabling wound, but the goal is not to kill. The goal is to win, to force your opponent to submit. And then it happens. The Retiarius ducks a blow, snares the Secutor's leg, and trips him. He stands over him, trident at his throat. The Secutor, defeated, drops his shield and raises his left index finger. He has surrendered. The fight stops. The referee steps in. The Retiarius looks to the editor who sponsored the game. The editor looks to the crowd. What is their desire? And here's the twist. The crowd loves the Secutor. He's a veteran. He fought bravely. They've won money on him before. They don't want him to die. They want to see him fight again in 6 months. So they cheer for mercy. The editor, seeing the crowd's will and, more importantly, his own bank account, gives the signal for missio, mercy. The Secutor is allowed to live. He walks out of the arena defeated, but alive. The Retiarius takes a victory lap, showered with prize money and palm fronds. Both men will go back to the Ludus, get patched up by Galen's colleagues, and start training for the next match. This was the overwhelmingly common outcome. Statistical analysis of gladiator tombstones and records suggests a mortality rate per fight of maybe 10%. High, yes, unacceptably high by our standards, but it is not 50%. It is not a fight to the death. This reality creates a whole new world, a world where gladiators weren't just victims, they were celebrities. We have graffiti from Pompeii, not grand imperial inscriptions, but messages scratched on tavern walls, Celadus the Thracian, the heart-throb of the girls, Crescens the Retiarius, the netter of girls. These men were the rock stars, the A-list athletes of their day. Their images were on household objects like oil lamps. They were infames, socially disgraced, on the same legal level as actors and prostitutes, but they were also wildly popular. And because of this, many gladiators were not slaves at all. They were octorati, free men who volunteered. They signed contracts with a lanista, trading their social status for a few years in the arena in exchange for a massive signing bonus and the chance for fame and fortune. They were prize fighters, seeking glory. A successful gladiator could fight dozens of matches over a decade, and if he survived, if he became a true champion, he could be awarded the rudis, a symbolic wooden sword. It was his ticket to freedom, his retirement package. He could walk away a free man, often a wealthy one. Some became trainers, some even became bodyguards for the rich, and some, like a modern champion, couldn't stay away. They came back out of retirement for one last, huge payday. So, we started with a simple, dark morality tale, a pitiless slaughterhouse where slaves were butchered for a savage mob. And where did we end up? In a complex, high-stakes, multi-billion sesterce entertainment industry. A world of professional athletes, team physicians, specialized trainers, referees, rules, contracts, and celebrity superstars who endorsed products and had fan clubs. Now, we must be careful not to sanitize this. It was a brutal world. Death was a constant risk. The foundation of the system was built on slavery and human exploitation. And let's not forget those midday meridiani, the very real and grotesque public executions that were a separate, horrifying part of the day's events. The Roman world was not our own, and its casual cruelty is still shocking. But the half-truth we unlearn was that the main event, Gladiator, was a disposable man in a fight to the death. The real story is that he was an extraordinarily valuable asset in a high-stakes sport, and he was expected to survive. Why does this matter? Why is it important to correct this one myth? Because the fight-to-the-death story is easy. It lets us look back at the Romans and dismiss them as unidimensional, bloodthirsty barbarians. It lets us feel comfortable and evolved. It creates a clean line between them in the past and us in the present. The truth is more unsettling. The truth is that the Romans didn't just love mindless violence. They commodified it. They professionalized it. They built a complex, rational, economic and legal system around human combat. They created rules, statistics, and celebrities. They turned exploitation into a sport, and that sport into the biggest entertainment business on earth. The half-truth of the gladiator lets us judge the past, but the whole truth, that forces us to look at the systems we build today, the lines we draw between entertainment and exploitation, and the way we, too, can rationalize anything. Now you know the real story. What other half-truths are still out there? If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a comment, and join us next time. Until then, stay curious.